name is Jonathan Walker. I'm an MD, a neurologist, but I have a particular interest in brain imaging with quantitative EEG and in neurofeedback, that is training the brain to be normal.
From one kind of office to another, there might be differences in how they do the training, and also depending on their equipment. Because, whenever I first started, I want to say that was back in 1999, we basically had one piece of equipment, only one area that we could train at a time, and now they have, in some facilities, you can do all 19 sites, you can do more than that, you can have a brain map on, and you're training many areas at one time.
What we do is, for the brain map, we put 19 electrodes on the head, and we record the electrical activity of the brain. Then we compare that person's brain waves to those of people their age who don't have any kind of problem as far as we know they're normal. We can put an electrode where there's too much slow activity and have the person play a video game. But instead of using a joystick, you use your brain waves. When the brain is making too much slow activity, the Pac-Man just sits there. When the brain slows down speeds up into the more functional range, the Pac-Man will move and gobble dots, and it's fun. The brain is a learning machine. If you tell it what it needs to do to be normal, and you give it a reward for doing it, like less slow, more fast activity. As you get better at it, we make it more difficult. Eventually you get so good at it, you wouldn't need any feedback anymore. You just automatically make it less slow, more fast. And basically you and your brain will have learned how to stay focused. Each of these circles represents a map at the top of the head. Here's the nose, the left ear, the right ear, the back of the head. These little dots represent electrodes on the scalp. If you lead off a wire from any of those electrodes and you amplify the electrical signal, you get some kind of squiggly lines that are called brain waves, or EEG. Based on the abnormalities we find, we can design a protocol to train the brain so that they no longer have trouble paying attention, that they're not anxious, they're not depressed, and they don't have learning difficulties.
Here we do neurotherapy, and we do kind of two different kinds. We can train 1 or 2 areas, or we can train up to 4 different areas. And again, here it's more, since we are supervised by Dr. Walker, we have a more standardized procedure that you follow.
Along the way, because I wasn't real sure I believed in neurotherapy, but I knew it was getting results. And the idea I had in my mind was that it had a placebo effect. And people were just getting better because they were in a doctor's office and we were telling them they were going to get better, and they would get better. But then I started working with children with autism, and these kids that the parents were having to hold them down, and they'd just be squirming and squealing and fighting and butting the parents. After 20, 30 sessions, the parents could just sit them in a chair by themselves, and they began to have verbal skills, and they started understanding what was going on around them.
With learning difficulties, there aren't any drugs that are helpful. The advantage of neurofeedback over drug treatment is that it's a permanent effect. So once you learn how to pay attention, you don't have to learn it again.
We did IQ testing, we did personality testing, we did achievement testing, and we could see as we would do sessions and we would repeat the assessment measures like mid-treatment and post-treatment, we could also see significant differences, not just on the quantitative EEG results. We saw significant differences like with IQ. I often say that what we see is that there's a change in the frequency of the problems they're having, in the intensity of the problem, and in the duration. So we see improvement in those 3 areas, definitely. So this is typically used a lot of times with people with anxiety.
But you can also have some improvements in attention in working this area. Like if you have a child with ADHD who's very hyperactive, this can try to help kind of calm him. We've seen a lot of success with the kids who haven't been able to sit still at school, in the classroom. After doing this protocol, they're all able to stay still, to focus, to sit for long periods of time without having to get up and move around, make a lot of noise, that kind of thing. But anyway, this one we want to have above the bar. So it's kind of like an upside down V.
So he came in and he's a real nice little boy, and he would just do whatever his mother told him. She would say something like, "Mark, tell Mr. Bill, you like something." And he would say, and he could turn the words into, "I like this." But he couldn't say anything on his own. 3 years ago, one of the women was asking me about him, and I can't really talk about him specifically, but they knew him. He said, "That's why they're here." He said, "Yeah, he's a bass player in a pretty popular band." And he's doing great.
There's some, people and some, especially kids, that I just kind of carry around in my heart all the time. And what's incredible is sometimes you won't know. You won't hear anything back until maybe 6 years later, and then you'll hear an update on them, like how great they're doing, wonderful in school, those kind of things. And every time I get an update, about kids and how they're doing much better, it's like I know I'm in my right lane. I'm right where I need to be because I'm here to serve. And that's what gives me joy. That's a gift to me whenever I get back that kind of information about them.